In Lisbon, he met a woman named Filipa Perestrelli Muniz at church. They fell in love and were married in 1479, when he was 28 years old. She called her husband Cristóvão. This is Portuguese for Christopher. Filipa's father had been a sea captain and explorer. He had helped discover a group of small islands 60 miles southwest of Portugal, off the coast of Africa. These islands were called the Madeiras. Before his death, Filipa's father had been governor of a Portuguese colony on the Madeira island of Porto Santo. When Filipa's mother heard that Columbus was interested in sailing and exploration, she gave him her husband's maps, logs, and sailing charts. These contained valuable information about the ocean sea. Cristóvão and Filipa decided to make their home in Madeira, the largest of the islands. They soon had a son, Diego. Columbus continued to sail, learning more about navigation and ship handling in open waters. By 1483, he was no longer content to sail to places chosen by others. He had a new idea for a voyage of exploration that he was certain would be successful. The Portuguese believed that if they could sail around the southern tip of Africa, they could reach the Indies by heading east. However, Portuguese sailors had explored 5,000 miles of the African coast without finding the tip. There seemed to be no end in sight. Columbus had a different solution. He proposed sailing west across the ocean sea. All educated people agreed that the earth was round, so by sailing west, one must eventually come to the east, he argued. What was uncertain was how long the journey would take, and whether the Indies could be reached before food ran out. Columbus was convinced that the distance was not too far to be reached by a skilled mariner like himself. He found support for his idea in the Bible and other religious writings. For example, a passage in one religious source read, "And on the third day, God united the waters and the earth's seventh part, and dried the other 6 parts. Columbus thought this meant that the world was made of 6 parts land and 1 part water. If that was so, then the ocean sea between Europe and Asia could not be very large. After the Bible, Columbus's chief source was Imago Mundi, Image of the World. This was a collection of writings about geography. He was greatly influenced, too, by the Book of Marco Polo, which recounted the adventures of a young traveler from Venice in the Orient 2 centuries before. As he researched his theory, Columbus learned about someone else who had come up with a similar idea. In 1474, an Italian doctor, mathematician, and geographer named Paolo Toscanelli dal Pozzo had written to the King of Portugal, urging him to sponsor a westward expedition to the Indies. Toscanelli even included a detailed map of his proposed route. Columbus wrote to Toscanelli, who sent him a copy of the letter and map. Using the writings that supported his theory that the ocean sea was small, Columbus made calculations. The distance across the ocean sea, he decided, was about 2,400 nautical miles. A nautical mile is a measurement of distance over water. It is about 800 feet longer than a mile on land. He measured from the Canary Islands, west of Portugal, to Cipango, where he expected to land. These numbers are wrong. The distance is actually more than 10,000 nautical miles. And, of course, Columbus didn't realize that there was a continent between Europe and China. In 1483 or 1484, Columbus and his family returned from Madeira to Lisbon. There, he asked King João II to sponsor his voyage. The king turned down his request. At around the same time, Filipa died. Grieving and in need of a fresh start, Columbus and his son Diego went to Spain.